Algebra 2, this is Chapter 5, Section 7, Example 6. So we are now going to simplify radical expressions, is what this is called, simplifying radical expressions. So we've got some ugly stuff here. Let's make this a little bit neater. So I know 81 at this point is 3 to the 4th. And I know that this is going to be to the 1/8 power. I also know that 3 is just 3. So this is 3 to the 1/6 power. So whenever I take an exponent to an exponent, I would multiply. So this is the 3 to the 4/8 over 3 to the 1/6. And I know 4/8 reduces, so this is actually 3 to the 1/2 divided by 3 to the 1/6. And when we divide, we subtract our exponents, so this is 3 to the 1/2 minus 1/6. And so I would have to get a common denominator, so this is 3 to the 3/6 minus 3 to the 1/6, which is actually 3 to the 2/6, which is 3 to the 1/3 when you get to simplify it. And so final answer, this is the third root of 3. So if I start with my number in a radical, I'm going to end with my number in a radical and put it back there. It just is way easier to do this in fraction form rather than trying to keep this with radicals and exponents. It gets really confusing when you do that. So let's look at another type of problem like this. So this is going to be the fourth root of 9z squared. So this is going to be, 9 is actually 3 squared. So it's 3 squared z squared to the 1/4 power. And so this would be actually 3z to the 2/4 power, which would be 3z to the 1/2 power when you reduce your fraction. And then I started with it in a radical, so I put it back in a radical. This is the square root of 3z when I reduce it. And a last type of problem like this, so I've got a fraction in the denominator, which is not allowed, fractional exponents in the denominator, so we've got to use our conjugate. Remember the conjugate from before? And so we're going to have to multiply this by m to the 1/2 minus 1, so that my middle terms drop out. And since I do that to the bottom, I've got to do the exact same to the top, exact same here. So it's the same number over the same number, which is multiplying by 1. So I'm going to FOIL the top. So m to the 1/2 times m to the 1/2. When you multiply, you add your exponents. So that is m to the 1. So that's just m. That's firsts, outers. So that's going to be minus m to the 1/2. Inners, that's going to be minus another m to the 1/2. And last, that is going to be plus 1. And I put that over my formula for using this. I'm going to square the first one, so that's just m. I'm going to square the last one, which is just 1. And a positive and a negative is a negative, so it's m minus 1 on the bottom. Then I'm ready to combine anything that can be combined up top. So my middle terms can combine. So final answer is going to be m minus 2m to the 1/2 plus 1 over m minus 1. Now there are no radicals, no half or fractional exponents in the denominator, and this is simplified at this point. Notice that if you've got the same number by itself, remembering back to our formula, square the first one, and then you multiply the first one times the second one times 2 to get your middle term, and then you square the last one, and that's how you get the third one. That's going to come useful using your formulas to get to your answers. So let's go through those 3 examples with some different numbers, again, just because they're kind of confusing. So first step on this one, see if you figure it out. If you want to pause the video and then check your answer, you can. Okay, so 16 is 2 to the 4th, and then this is going to be to the 1/6 power. And then this is 2 to the 1/3 power. So this becomes 2 to the 4/6 power over 2 to the 1/3 power. 2/6 can be reduced, so this is 2 to the 1/3 power over 2 to the 1/3 power. Silly me. 4/6 is actually 2/3 power. There we go. That fixed my mistake. Knew something didn't look quite right here. Then we're going to, when you divide, you subtract your exponents. So that's going to be 2 to the 2/3 minus 1/3, which is just 1/3. We started out with a radical, so we end with a radical. So this is the cube root of 2. Okay, next type of problem here. So this one is to the 1/6. So 4 is 2 squared, and z to the 4th. And all of that's going to be to the 1/6 power. So that is 2 to the 2/6 power, and z to the 4/6 power. And so when I reduce that, that's going to be 2 to the 1/3 power, z to the 2/3 power. And again, I started out as a radical, I end as a radical. So these are both thirds, so they can go under the same radical. And then this is going to be 2 to the 1st, z, oops, that's kind of ugly. Let's try that again. To the 3rd power. That's 2 to the 1st, z to the 2nd. So the cube root of 2z squared would be the final answer on that one. So one more time with finding the conjugate. So I've got 1/2 power in the bottom, so I've got to get rid of that. So I'm going to multiply by its conjugate, which is 1/2 plus 1. So the y to the 1/2 plus 1. And I'm going to use my formulas here, so it's going to go a lot faster. So my formula says square the top. Since these are the exact same, it's actually y to the 1/2 plus 1 squared. So I'm just going to square the first one, so that's just a y. I'm going to take the first one times the second one times 2. So y to the 1/2 times 1 is y to the 1/2 times 2 is going to be plus 2 y to the 1/2 power. And then square my last term, which is a 1, so plus 1. So my top is done. And the bottom, I square my first one, which is just y. I square my last one, which is a minus 1, and the middle terms have dropped out. So there is my final answer when I multiply by my conjugate. And I did the quick step with getting rid of my middle terms faster.